So the thing about the anti-democratic nonsense in our system is that it all supports the others. So you have a federal system where you have small states getting disproportionately more power in a variety of different forms, including, by the way, in the Electoral College. So you can have a president who can't win the popular vote, but gets elected via the Electoral College. He then gets to appoint judges who are gonna sit on the Supreme Court, so that in Texas, let's say that this eventually get passed, which it probably will. We'll spend the next couple of years with our fingers crossed, like, oh, what are the judges gonna say? And maybe a district court judge will strike it down, and we'll be like, yes, victory for democracy. And then the Court of Appeals will uphold the district court judge, and we're like, yes, this thing is going down. They're gonna stop the Republicans, and then the supermajority of the Supreme Court will say, yeah, the Republicans in Texas can do literally whatever they want. So, like, from the top to the bottom, it's all combining to make it so difficult to translate anything even approximating the popular will into actual policy. So somewhere the Democrats have to get involved. They have to try to do something. And right now, what they can do is run, even though, as Dan points out, that might have some consequences, including Governor Greg Abbott telling an Austin television station that he would keep calling special sessions of the legislature through next year if necessary, and raise the possibility of just arresting all the Democrats once they return home, saying as soon as they come back, they will be arrested. They will be cabined inside the Texas Capitol until they get their job done. So Dan, like, that's obviously a threat. Do you think that's what it will come to, a mass arrest of Democratic state lawmakers?
I mean, if the lawmakers go back into Texas, they're definitely facing that risk. Listen, the Republicans are on a very cornered, concerned plan that they've been on for 10, 20 years or so, actually more than that, to have total power over the government on all levels as much as they can, to deregulate it, drain it in a bathtub, everything they want to do, and they've been talking about doing for years. They're not going to let, maybe the optics of arresting politicians look bad because Trump taught them optics don't really matter as long as you're acting in a partisan will and favor. So yeah, I'm not the person playing the chess here. So like maybe this is a thing where just the Texas lawmakers that are Democrats just don't live in Texas and they legislate remotely. A lot of us have been doing that for the past year anyways. So maybe it'll be an adjustment that'll be better for the Texas legislators' quality of life anyways, especially since political violence is on uptick again. But you want to, yes, of course, the Republicans are gonna play hardball because they've been playing hardball up to this point, and the Democrats are just learning hardball, and that's why I'm a little bit concerned about what their next move is, because traditionally they haven't been really smart and adept at playing the Republicans. Otherwise, we wouldn't have gotten to this point in the first place.
Yeah, exactly. And look, people are asking in the chat, they're like, wait, how is that legal? Apparently it is. Under Texas House rules, absent politicians can be arrested and returned to the House floor. It is Texas after all, people. You can pretty much do whatever you want. And the thing is, like, I don't want this to be the way that state parties have to act. I wouldn't want the Republicans doing this to stop actual popular legislation, but this isn't popular. This doesn't reflect the will nationally of the voters, in Texas, and it's not based on anything. They're saying all of this is to stop voter fraud, but it's a complete farce. So what are they supposed to do? Just allow democracy, the final vestiges of democracy, the already our democracy is more manipulated and contorted than your average congressional district, but that's what we have right now. So what are you supposed to do? And so thankfully they're at least doing this. Although we should note that while I think they deserve some credit, obviously, like they're risking potential arrest and it's in Texas, so they'll probably be executed eventually. This is the area where Democrats will sometimes fight in trying to stop something. But I will point out to national Democrats, this is really a fight that you need to get involved in, because if they pass the For the People Act, then the Texas Democrats wouldn't have to be doing most of this, that this wouldn't be necessary. But it's always easier to get Democrats to show a little bit of backbone to stop something from being done than to get something new done, even if it's wildly popular, as the For the People Act with Republicans. It's difficult to get them to do that then, which is why we've just been dragging out month after month after month with the For the People Act without much progress. Any final thoughts, Dan?
Yeah, I was just gonna add context to that point you had about kind of Democrats' inability to play the politics of this right. Let's remember that these acts that are happening across the country to restrict voting rights are Republicans feeling like they're on the ropes, right? Because if the Democrats do well in Congress, which like Republicans have already said we're going to be obstructionists again, like in the Obama administration, then there's a significant chance that maybe Democrats can hold power for a little while longer and maybe build some momentum off of that in the coming midterm elections, general elections, all that stuff. But because Texas is on the precipice of becoming a purple state, being a purple state, maybe even being a blue state soon, along with other really big strongholds in the United States right now, could potentially in future elections, because of population changes, because of people thinking the Republican Party is just absolutely nuts. Things are not looking good electorally for the Republican Party, and so they're on the ropes and hit dogs holler, and they're fighting with everything they can right now. Democrats are acting like they're the ones on the ropes, and they're playing like that way, because in a way they are, but it goes back to your overall point, John, of they are not the best at strategy and utilizing the upper hand when they have it.
Yeah. And look at the difference in the willingness to play hardball. Like the Republicans will always act as if the Democrats are like a perfect melding of Mao and Stalin or something. Like Madison Cawthorn at CPAC is like, this is a tyranny of power-hungry madmen. Like, dude, they're not doing anything. Like they literally aren't doing anything. Whereas the Republicans are going to so much effort to try to make it impossible for Democrats to vote so they can stay in power, rather than literally propose anything popular. Like the thing is, the Republicans don't have to be much better than they are. There are a lot of crazy racist conservatives that are always gonna support them. All the Republicans really need is to win over a couple percentage points more of Americans by having some sort of actual platform. I'm not saying it has to be awesome. I'm not expecting them to pass universal health care or something, but literally any like shallow surface level effort would probably be enough for them to win in some of these states. And they don't want to do that. They would rather shred the last bits of democracy than try to put any substance to the fake claims of right-wing populism and all that. So that's the system. We got Democrats who can win, but don't really do anything with it, and Republicans who could if they wanted to, if they really cared to, but in the absence of that are going to try to effectively restrict the vote enough that they will remain in power.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.